A lot of my coaches were asking, like, you're going to stick with 3 sports. Maybe you should go to 2. Maybe you should go to 1. Like, maybe you have to start focusing. But, the big thing for me is that I needed to compete year round. And, all the kids I always talk to is just that's the biggest edge you can get on an opponent in whatever sport it is. And you just see that translate to the next level, which I'll get into a little bit later. But I just always wanted to compete year round. And, Jeff was a huge role model of mine growing up, watching him do it at the high school. And I saw him do it. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to stick with 3 sports and do the same thing. So yeah, I played football in the fall, and I started preparing for that in, late July, August, when summer ball was over. And then I'd prepare for football. I jump into football season. And then when Thanksgiving game came, that ended, I'd start preparing for hockey, 2 weeks. And then I'd have my hockey season, and I'd, maybe go to the cages, once or twice a month during hockey season. Hockey season ends, then you pick up a bat and you start doing that. So you see all these kids nowadays, they're jumping from showcase to showcase, just prioritizing one sport. They think that's how you get noticed. But, I'm telling you guys right now, that's not the key. The key is, coaches and college coaches really like recruiting athletes. I don't even think I knew that. I just liked playing multiple sports. But, I have learned that now. And there's time to do showcases. You guys are young. I think I did my first one my sophomore year in the summer, and I did one perfect game showcase, and that was it. And, I continued to play all 3 sports. I think I excelled the most in hockey, or in, not hockey, football and baseball. So I committed to Boston College the summer after my freshman year. This just goes to show that you guys have to be, bouncing on all cylinders at all times. It was the state tournament game my freshman year. I was playing short, and a ball got hit to our third baseman. He bobbled it, went through his legs, and I ended up backing him up, fielded the ball, and the guy on second was running to third. I just picked it up and tagged him. Just a little play. I usually make that, just always trying to work hard, and just happened to be that the BC coach was at that game. And that one play he really liked, invited me to a camp. I did some camps that summer, as well as some followed my summer ball games, and I committed at the end of the summer. And it happened also fast within, a span of 4 months. But, it just goes to show that you guys never know who's watching. If I didn't make that play, I may not, be where I am right now. So always play like someone's watching you guys. And so that was my sophomore year. And then I was pretty much set on playing baseball in college. And then junior year came around, and a ton of football coaches started rolling into the high school and sat down and talked with me. My football coach was talking with me, asking, if I wanted to do both. And I was all for it. And BC actually then ended up offering me for football after my junior season. And for about a month, I'd say, I was planning on playing both at BC. And then my baseball coach at BC kind of sat down and talked with me and said, hey, I know you're a multi-sport athlete, and I love that about you, but I think, now's the right time to, really prioritize one and choose one to focus on if you want to make that leap. So I ended up choosing baseball my senior year and hung up the pads after my senior football season. And that's about it for my
and Gambino, he was cool with going into your senior year. So, once you made that decision, you said you had verbally committed as a freshman, so those next years, you already knew you were going to BC. Once that junior year came and you got a little bit older, a little bit more mature and stuff, and it kind of was basically set in stone that, like, hey, I'm going to the Heights and stuff like that. Was Gambino pretty lenient in terms of letting you play hockey and football, opposed to shying you away? Was it because of that kind of keeping that competitor spirit year round that Gambino was like, hey, even as a senior, go play on the gridiron, go play hockey during the winter, and didn't just kind of guide you, say, hey, I don't want you to get hurt, just play baseball?
Yeah, I mean, my high school baseball coach was the first one that brought it up to me after my junior year. He said, why don't you hang up the skates? Why don't you just do football and baseball? I was like, come on, no way. So I called my BC coach, Coach Gambino. I was like, my baseball coach said this. Like, I don't know if it was a smart idea. What do you think? And he was like, dude, absolutely not. Like, you play all 3 sports. Like, the kid we're recruiting, the kids we want to recruit are those kids who are competing year round. And so I was very happy with that, and ended up telling my baseball coach that, and he got on board. So they were absolutely for me playing football and hockey my senior year.
Okay. So, and throughout your high school career, it's interesting that you just said too that you kind of were a season-to-season guy. You didn't really do too much baseball during the fall or during the winter. We have Brendan Jones over at Arlington. He's kind of a guy that same situation. Multi-sport athlete, unreal talent. But during the winter with hockey, he wasn't able to get in as much. It didn't really affect him too crazy because he's kind of that athlete and he's still working some type of athletic, skill and stuff, obviously with hockey, and he's working different muscles. So he's staying fresh. Jeff, if you want to touch about your high school career, you're kind of in
Yeah, absolutely.
similar situation.
I would just say one thing actually to add on to Sal's point. If you ask any Division I athlete, any NCAA athlete, any professional athlete, what they grew up doing, every single one of them will tell you I played 2 or 3 sports in high school. So it's never just this like one sport, one-dimensional kind of deal.
Yeah. I think as much as people, you hear it through professional athletes, and you hear a lot of guys like yourselves talk about being multi-sport athletes, and you see it out there, but then you see the other side of it where it is kind of transitioning, where it is people getting pushed to kind of choose maybe their sophomore year or the beginning of their junior year. Everyone's multi-sport athlete when you're younger and you're in middle school and stuff like that. But I feel like some coaches down the line end up saying, "Ooh, hey, you should this winter, instead of skating, take that time to get more hacks in or throw more bullpens and stuff like that." So even though it's there, and a lot of people talk about it, I feel like there is some type of backstory or behind the page type thing of coaches saying, maybe you should just concentrate on baseball and get your reps in this winter and fall.
I think there's so many lessons too that you learn from like football or hockey that you can't learn on the baseball diamond, just because it's not really a contact sport unless you're getting like pegged in the head. But just like learning that kind of that mental and physical toughness is definitely what will separate you, at the next level.
And you use different motor skills too, in terms of you got to think quicker on the football field or the the ice hockey rink, because it's a quicker game,
right.
But maybe in baseball you learn how to control your breathing a little bit differently. It's a slow pace. It's more of a twitch type sport, things like that. So you're a little bit more well-rounded than just being a baseball player.
Right. So to build off of what Sal was saying, I was similar to him. Going into high school, I was a 3-sport athlete. I did football, basketball, and baseball. And then I played freshman basketball before I was like, I genuinely do not enjoy this anymore. But I was in the same boat as him, is like I needed something to do. I needed like competition in my life, because when I didn't have it, when I had like 2 weeks of vacation, I was just like itching to just, compete against someone. So going into freshman year, I did like all the football, like 7-on-7 stuff, as I'm sure Sal did all that stuff too. And then that took me into the fall. And then once basketball was done, I would use that winter to start weight training. And so I had a couple older guys who were on the baseball team who were juniors when I was a freshman, and then senior when I was a sophomore, who kind of took me under their wing. And we just created this little trio amongst us, and we went at it every single day in the weight room. I ended up putting on like a whole bunch of muscle, and I kind of like learned how to like actually like weight train, which is something that is important, especially when you get to the next level. And then it wasn't until I would do winter workouts with my club team. So I did the Team Boston. They used to be called the Scorpions, but now they're Team Boston. I would do that in the winter, and then it was probably like 2 or 3 times a week that I was meeting with them, just to hit and throw, do all the stuff you guys do. And then that would take me right into the spring, and then I didn't see any of those AAU team or any of the teammates anymore until the summer after that. So I always was busy. I wasn't necessarily just like going home and just laying on the couch watching movies. I was always doing something. I was always busy, and I think that's the most important thing to take away from high school sports
Yeah.
in general, is just being on the grind all the time, because while you're doing well, you could be always getting better. Always getting better. So then fast forward to, so I did 3 years at Lexington before kind of like looking ahead. The BB&N football coach actually had reached out to me, and he had said, "Hey, our quarterback is actually going off to Dartmouth to pitch as a baseball player, and we'd love to have you on the squad here." And I was like, "No way!" I was like, "I'm gonna graduate from Lexington and go off, play somewhere, hopefully play baseball at the collegiate level."
Now,
But
are you younger, Jeff? Were you younger? Were you a younger junior when this came
no,
about?
I was old for my grade as it was. But the year that I got from switching over to BB&N just like made me way older than all the people in my grade, which has its pros and cons. But obviously from like the maturity standpoint, you're able to like, throw faster, basically just letting your body develop. But I ended up sitting down with my parents, and I was like, I really don't think I need to do this. But the more I thought about just like my path, and a huge year for recruitment in baseball is your junior spring, because by senior spring you already have to like know where you're going. So it's kind of cutthroat in that way. So I was like, I'm approaching the springtime, and I'm like, I don't really have the exposure that I'm looking for. So it just made more sense to repeat my junior year at BB&N, and then
You
play
wanted to do
football.
baseball even
Yeah,
though when BB&N approached you about, hey, we're looking, for a quarterback, stuff like that. Were you ever more of a football guy, and then all of a sudden, depending on the interest, you flip flop to baseball? Or
yeah, I was definitely trying to play both. Just like Sal, I was trying to play both. I didn't know what coaches would think of that, trying to play both, but I was just trying to play both for as long as I could. And then obviously for someone at like the quarterback position like Sal and I, the height, like the D1 coaches look at height, and they look at like, ceilings, and you're starting to see a shift now with like more elusive, shorter quarterbacks, but
Yep.
that definitely can be like a deterrent to a lot of coaches. That'll kind of turn them off from recruiting you. But anyways, I get over to BB&N, repeat junior year there, and then just continue on the same path that I had done my freshman, sophomore, junior year at Lexington, of just doing football, weight train in the winter, and then spring ball. And then it wasn't until I had 2 offers that I got my first junior year, or my second junior year at BB&N. I'd gotten an offer from St. John's and UMaine, but I wanted they didn't really like fit what I was looking for in a program. So I went the following year. I went to an area code tryout, and I happened to have like the best tryout of my life. Like in like 2 rounds of BP, I hit like 14 balls out, and all the coaches are just like, who's this kid, like, how have we not known about this kid? And then that it's funny because like I did a bunch of showcases growing up, and it was just like that single moment, like those 5 minutes, that completely changed my recruiting process. So going back, I would definitely limit the amount that I did. I went to Northeastern's winter camps, which is what my head coach, looking back, he's like, yeah, I'm glad I got to see you so many times, because every coach is different, and in the way that they dish out their scholarships. Some guys will offer really early on, but some coaches like Mike Lavin, he likes to be able to like see this guy over and over again and basically solidify exactly what he's getting, and he likes to know exactly who the kid is, exactly how he plays, and all that stuff. So ended up getting the offer from Northeastern, and then committed going into my senior year at BB&N. So that summer is when I committed.
So Evan, so he had seen you a few times before that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He'd seen me probably like 7 or 8 times,
Okay.
just between like AAU baseball and the winter camps that I went to.
That's something obviously right now. There's tons of showcases out there and stuff like that. Some of them for exposure are better than others. Some of them are just kind of eyewash and just kind of money grabs. But
And like looking back on that, it became so clear, and I wish I knew now. I wish I knew what I knew now, basically.
And in a lot of the showcases, unless it's say the area codes or certain showcases, Firecracker, PBR, there's some good, say, academic showcases. There's some good smaller showcases that can get you exposure to certain schools. But, kids, I feel like I see a lot of kids doing showcases right now when a lot of the eyes in the true test, I feel like, are during the summer games. You can throw up some numbers in showcases and exit velos, and that's great and all, but what are you going to do live? How are you going to go and compete, battle out of an 0-2 hole, stuff like that, bust your ass down the baseline? The showcases are great, I think, for some benchmarks, maybe because of physical numbers. But in terms of the actual game, I feel like –
I just want to see how you, like, run off the fields and, like, how you compose yourself,
Now, if you want to touch base on this, actually, last year we did the BC showcase that you helped out at a little bit, and then this year we're doing it again as well as the Northeastern one. But if you want to touch base, Sal, on what your path was, did you do showcases, or were you just like, hey, when you played Stampede and then when you played NEB, it was, all right, the summer's here, let's play some baseball. That's how I got my exposure. I think you did that Red Sox Yankees Classic. But was there PBR? Did you do the perfect game showcases, or were you just kind of scouted out of game situations during the summer?
Yeah, so I did one perfect game showcase right before I committed to BC. And then I committed to BC, and that was the only showcase I did. I did some BC camps, but then I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything until my senior year when I got invited to area code.
Okay.
And I remember I went there, and there's kids jacking balls out of the park, and I'm like, I'm gonna hit the ball to left center gap. I'm gonna roll over a couple of times, and I remember at the end, the head scout there looked me in the eye and said, "Listen, you're not good enough. We're gonna cut you. You're going home." And I just laughed, and I know a lot of those kids that made that team. I had written their names down, circled them on the schedule when we were going to play them, because that's just the thing, is that I didn't do all these showcases because I was competing year round. I knew these kids were showcase players, and they'll make the team now, but when I play them in the ACC and the lights turn on and I step over the line, like, I will outcompete them and beat them, and that's just who I was and who I wanted to be. So all these showcases and stuff, there's some good ones to do. I like when kids go to camps of schools they're interested in. I think that's a great way. Like Jeff touched on, going to Northeastern. That's the best possible way. If you guys are going to spend your money, that's what you're going to do. I'd recommend doing, maybe one perfect game. Head first is a good one too if you're a good student for those. But I wouldn't go running around doing a million perfect game showcases, just because the ultimate goal is to succeed at the next level. It's not to get to the next level. So right now, if you guys have tunnel vision, it's great that you guys are trying to play college baseball, but in the back of my mind, it was, I really want to play college baseball, but I want to be the best, college baseball player, I don't want to limit myself there. That's where I kind of think I tried separating myself.
Nice. Now, what was it about? I had a former teammate of mine on who was a coach at Quinnipiac and then at Fairfield. He just moved down to Florida. He talked about, the culture and the academics, and then also the baseball side. Are those – what necessarily were you guys looking at when you guys were making your decisions? Some guys right now, they're just they're getting caught up with the social media and the Instagram posts of, hey, D1 UMaine comes after me. I get to bump my chest and say, hey, I'm committed to UMaine. But maybe a D3 NESCAC school is better for you in terms of your chance of playing and maybe the culture that kind of fits your kind of character. What is it that you guys were looking at when you guys were being recruited? It wasn't just maybe the D1 aspect of it. Was it maybe the academics and whatnot?
That definitely played a huge factor in my decision too. I had identified Northeastern as not only a great athletic school with baseball, but also like an incredible academic school, and like super competitive to get into, just like BC. And I'm sure that's something that a lot of guys, especially like Sal and I, will think about is like life after baseball. You want to like be able to set yourself up for success when it comes time to hang them up and not play anymore. So I think everyone has a different opinion, but I think the smartest person will try to get a balance of their sport and their academic institution, just like the competitiveness of that.
Yeah, I think that I know you guys are all in high school, and I think when I was a freshman, right before I went to high school, I sat down with my dad, and I did research. I wrote down the top 10 Division I schools, top 10 Division II schools, top 10 Division III schools that that I'm interested in, and that really helped me. So that when schools started calling and talking to me, it was like, oh, this is one of the schools I was really interested in. And for me, it was I wanted a good academic school and I wanted a Catholic school. And Boston College was right on the top of my list there. And as soon as they came calling, I was like, yep, this is a no-brainer for me. I think Jeff's a great example. Like Maine and St. John's were begging for him to go there. And a lot of kids now, like you were saying, Matt, with that social media, like they're D1, I'm there. That's all I care about. And they're not patient anymore. And there's a lot that goes into it. Like you're living here for 4 years, like what comes after. And Jeff ended up getting a way better offer, and he's doing fine now because of that patience. So I just think you guys have time and don't get antsy and jumpy when schools start calling you, because plenty more will start calling.
Yeah, I like that. All right, let's jump into to college ball. Right, let's talk a little bit more about the physical approach. What was your transition like into college ball, both physically and mentally, as well as adjusting maybe to a different style of coaching, or a different hitting approach than you had learned maybe the past 2 years or 3 years or so many years that got you to this point? We'll touch base on hitting approach. Did Coach Glavin and Coach Gambino, your hitting coaches, stuff like that, was there something that was different that got you to that level that maybe they brought to your attention? And obviously they're your college coach right now, 2 great programs that you obviously opened up to and said, hey, I'll try this because, these are the guys that are coaching me now. And then compared to what had gotten you there, some guys right now, there's so many ways of hitting, especially when you're on Twitter and Instagram right now. You see one guy saying one thing, you see a guy putting up pictures of a pro doing another. You got a guy like A-Rod saying he never swung down on the ball, but then you got an analyst showing that he actually swung down on the ball, things like that. Was there an approach that changed that you just said, okay, I'm going to accept this because, I'm at that next level. Coach Gambino is now coaching BC. I'm not at Lexington High School. I'm not playing travel ball. Did your mind open up? Did you converse with the coach of saying, hey, this is what kind of got me here. This is what I'm comfortable with. I'm going to try this, but if it doesn't work, are you okay with me going back to kind of what has produced the results? How did they handle it as well, trying to fit into their approach to maybe what you guys were coming from?
Right. Well, right off the bat, when I got to Northeastern, Coach Glavin, he did one of the things I appreciated most about him and his philosophies were just how flexible he was, and he's not trying to take away from the player that got you there. He wants to keep what it was about you that made you as good as you were. So as far as like hitting approaches for us, he let us run free with whatever we thought was most comfortable. But then if you ran into problems, he was all for like kind of breaking it down, maybe making an adjustment here or there, but like nothing too great. But definitely just like having that comfortability of having your own kind of swing. You look at guys like Hunter Pence, who like I'm sure I don't know where he went to college, but like his college coach was probably like, oh my God, what is that? But if it works for you, it works for you. And that's one thing that I really appreciated about that program. In
Now,
terms of, what's that?
did you discuss that going in, like when you were in the recruiting process? Did he talk about approach and culture, things like that, where you can converse about that? Because right now, I'm sure you guys know a bunch of guys, or you've played during the summer with some guys that they might be in their second school, and they might be a junior that went maybe to a prep school, went to a certain school. Now they're at their second school. So with that prep school, it's almost like being at 3 different colleges now. There's so many guys transferring because they go somewhere and either they don't fit with the coach, or the coach tries changing them and they don't like it. Is that something that you guys both maybe discussed with Gambino and Glavin ahead of the time, their culture, what their approach is, to see if it kind of fit? Or if you were going in there with saying them, hey, this is a strong kid, I think if he does it this way, he could excel, but it was going to be their way or their highway. You just said Glavin was pretty lenient, but like I said, did you guys talk about it beforehand?
We never really talked about it that much in depth. He mentioned, just like during some meetings when we met with him, that he's like, yeah, I'm pretty easygoing when it comes to just letting guys compete, and as long as you're getting base hits and playing the game the right way, then you'll never hear from me. It's only when there's like something glaring, or what you're doing isn't translating to the next level, that he'll try to talk to you. I don't know what Gambino is like, Sal.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically the same thing. Before going, committing to BC, I did have, a couple conversations with him, not as much about my swing, but just about, his style of play. And it was, you're going to bunt for base hits, you're going to get on and ground balls hit to the left side. And if you're ever on first base, you're stealing second, and then you're stealing third. Like, that's how BC plays baseball. It's super old school. We bunt and we steal bases. And that's exactly what I was looking for, I think that fits really well with my style of play. So that was the main thing we talked about before going there. And just like Jeff said, I mean, the end goal as a hitter is to get hits and get on base. It's not, to look pretty flying out. So the college coaches understand that. And if you ever have a, hitting coach that tells you to completely change your swing, I don't think he's a good hitting coach. I think the best hitting coaches and pitching coaches, both of them, it goes both ways, are ones that have seen you play and know your style of play, know how you pitch, know how you hit, because then they can make you adapt to your uniqueness of your swing or your pitching motion. So I know, all you guys that work with Matt in pitching, you're in good hands, because he's seen all of you guys pitch in game, throw bullpens. But if you go see some random guy who's never seen you pitch or hit before, he doesn't know your body and how you handle yourself while playing. So it's a little different. But yeah, I'd say it's the same thing. They never change your swing. You got yourself there with that swing, so they'll always critique it if needed, but never change it.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing that you just talked about too, because everyone moves differently. You move differently than Jeff. Some of these kids, they move differently. You try to maybe set some type of foundation, and there is certain maybe checkpoints that you want to get to, so you can alter some guys, whether it's hitting, whether it's pitching. There's guys that come to me that they might be more 3/4, things like that. I just look at their checkpoints, making sure they're in the right place at the right time, they're healthy, release point wise. But I'm not going to say, hey, cookie cutter, this is how you should throw. So I know there's a lot of guys out there that I see that there's so many transfers, and I don't know if it's because of the player or because of the coach. Going into maybe a situation where it's that coach is my way or the highway, and it doesn't fit because that change isn't naturally happening, and that kind of athlete isn't comfortable with it. That's maybe not how they move, and it kind of sets them back.
Totally. The one thing I was going to say is the one thing that a lot of coaches will demand is that you buy into their approach. Mainly speaking towards offensive approach. For example, Northeastern's approach is to be able to hit balls that are 2.5 balls off the black. So because no matter what level you get to, maybe the MLB is exempt, but you don't want to be able to rely on umps to make the final call. So having that aggressiveness and having that like extension in your swing to be able to get to that outside pitch, is definitely what he's preached the most. And he'll tell us all the time, see the ball up, breaking balls that are hangers, see him up, get on top of the ball, and then in like batting practice, he'll if you swing at a ball that's like on the black inside, he'll be like, "What are we doing here? That's not our approach." So it's just making all 9 guys buy into that approach is definitely something that most coaches will be pretty adamant about.
Okay. So it's more approach based than necessarily, hey, I want you carrying the barrel through the zone at this length, at this angle on contact, stuff like that. It's, hey, here's your approach. This is what we're trying to do as a program. Sometimes it doesn't matter how you get there, but get it done.
Yeah. And then how every batter's swing compensates to meet those requirements of what he's asking is up to the player, because everyone's going to be different, like you said. And
because I've seen some guys too that they've been great ball players. They've barreled up balls. They've hit ball hard, and they maybe started going down that path of just working on baseball, working on hitting, and they start going to maybe that one-time instructor, and they're kind of forcing a certain thing, and sometimes it's more detrimental,
right?
Because it's that cookie cutter instead of maybe, like you said, an approach-wise and tweaking things maybe here and there in terms of the mechanical aspect of it. But instead of that cookie cutter, that kind of gets thrown out. Hey, we're a home run hitting program. I want your launch angle at this, that type of stuff, where you're obviously seeing it now. And it's obviously taken over at some of the MLB level, because that's what scouts and organizations are looking for, certain sabermetrics, opposed to just seeing a guy come out, ball out, go 3 for 3, 4 for 4. Doesn't matter how he went 4 for 4, but his numbers don't equate to what they're looking for, and he gets pushed off the board.
And it's so funny how clear it is pregame too. When you're like on the road or you're watching the other team take batting practice, you can see in the first 5 minutes on what that team's approach is, just based off of where the guys are going each round. For example, we played Florida Atlantic before. It was, I think, the weekend before the season got canceled. We were down in Florida, and I'm not joking, every single kid hit every single ball out, and we were just like, holy cow. Like, you could tell that they're like launch angled, like they're trying to hit the bottom half of the ball or whatever it was. But you could tell just like recruiting styles in that way too. Like the coach is clearly trying to get guys who have power.
Yeah.
But then we had, as a pitching staff, we had 27 Ks against them. So it's like, at what point you got to find that middle area where like our BP is much more just like getting on top of the ball. He calls them power ground balls, which are like basically line drives that should like 2-hop the fence is what he looks for.
And that's interesting that you said that about getting on top of the ball, because I see a lot of stuff. Sal, you can chime in too on BC's hitting approach, and maybe what you guys, both during your summer leagues, you've been around a bunch of different college coaches, maybe former pro guys, stuff like that. But Jeff just talked about power ground balls and getting on top of the ball, kind of creating that line drive effect, where some things you see on Instagram and on Twitter right now, you're getting some coaches saying, hit the bottom of the ball, get to the bottom of the ball to create that backspin and kind of, get that ball elevated. So that's interesting that you said that. You got a great coach like Glavin and a great program, and that's something that in your approach during BP, there's rounds where you're talking about power ground balls, getting on top of the balls. If you were to throw that out there on Twitter right now or on Instagram, you would get eaten alive, But Sal, if you want to talk about your approach, if there's different, maybe even if there's different rounds, maybe you do have a certain approach, but maybe Gambino throws in that third round, maybe power ground balls, because certain balls you're looking in a counter, an approach that now you need to react to, maybe get on top of the ball opposed to the bottom of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me, and I've always thought about hitting this way since, high school, and I just wish, college and anywhere hitting coaches would preach this. And the number one thing I try to do in the box, the only thing I think about is hit the ball in the sweet spot, because nothing can go wrong when you barrel the ball up. Even if you're an out, it's a hard out somewhere. You hit the ball hard. But that kind of got carried away a little bit towards my senior year when I started getting a little more power. I tried cranking balls out of the park, and it just wasn't good for my swing. And so I got to college, and I was really working approach with my hitting coach. And right now, when I step in the box, and what we really try to do is we want to hit every single ball right up the middle. Because if I think pull the ball and I'm early on it, it's foul ball. If I think pull the ball and I'm late on it, it's just a ground ball to short. But if I think, hit the ball up the middle and I'm early, it's a double to right center, and I'm late, it's a double to left center. So if I can think, hit the ball up the middle hard every single time, good things will happen. And you guys will, in high school now, but as you start progressing, older in summer ball, I know, Jeff and I get so many statistics thrown at us about pitchers. And if you're a pitcher in here, it's the same way. You'll get so much statistics thrown about you about hitters, what pitches they hit, what pitches they don't. And we have hitters meetings on that. And I don't even go to those meetings. I want to know, as a hitter, what the pitcher throws, what I'll see, and how hard he throws, his velocity. So I know when to get my foot down. And it's just as simplified as you can keep your swing. I'm sure it's the same with pitching. As simplified as you can keep it, the better you'll be, because that's just the whole philosophy. And the only thing that I try to do in the box is hit the ball hard, and hit fastballs is the other thing. A curveball, change up, especially in college, they're absolutely gross. They're put away pitches for guys. So if I see a first pitch fastball, like I'm swinging at it. I don't care, if the guy's throwing 106. Like, you can time up a fastball, but you see gross sliders, gross curveballs. Those things are hard to hit. So that's basically my approach: is hit the ball hard up the middle and hit fastballs.
And you've been someone, especially last summer, I think, when you were with the Navigators, and then even at Boston College. You were someone, you're just saying, hit the ball up the middle, hit it hard, but you have power. You have some solid power numbers. Did you lead the Futures League last year in home runs, or you were up there, weren't you?
So my seniors, I'd probably hit
going into your senior.
Yeah, I probably hit, I think, 4 home runs like in my entire life, with metal bats. And then going into before my freshman year, I was playing in a collegiate league, and I think at the All-Star break, I had 7 home runs, and I think it was completely attributed to, like, I wasn't trying to hit a home run. Like, I'd never hit one. So I just kind of filled into my body, and as much as I tried to hit line drives, those ones I got under, they went out instead of trying to hit a home run. And then when I get under that, it's a pop out to the pitcher.
I think what you were talking about is just kind of barreling up the ball and hitting it hard. I think some kids, especially at this age, they tend to forget that. If I'm coaching 14U and I see a kid, say, swing and a miss, yeah, you want to reinforce maybe certain mechanics in your swing, but I see too many guys step out and they're working on a slot, or they're working on something. And yeah, you want to take your cut, you want to work on stuff, but you can just tell mentally, like, they're more focused on, shit, what did my body do wrong, instead of just see ball, hit ball, and kind of react in the moment.
Yeah, we preach, mechanics. It's to an extent if you're struggling. But, when you're hitting the ball hard, you're hitting the ball hard. Then if you're thinking about mechanics in the box, so that's just, a confidence, deflator, because you're thinking, like, how can I, improve my swing while you're in the box? There's times to improve your swing, but, when you're in game in the box, you should just be thinking hit the ball hard. There's some games I've been in the box, I'm like, I completely know my mechanics are falling apart right now. That's all I'm going to think about. Maybe I need to drop down a bunt. Maybe I need to draw a walk. And then after the game, I'll go do tee work for an hour or two and fix those mechanics, because that's when you fix the mechanics, not in the game.
Yeah, I do see that, especially, like I said, at some of this age, in terms of high school and even 14U, stuff like that, is kids stepping out of the box and they're doing certain things. And then you can just tell right there, like, all right, they're more focused on, their mechanics, opposed to just being that competitor and saying, hey, I'm going to barrel it up, put it in play, and put the pressure on the defense type thing. They're trying to be too cute and kind of finesse about it.
Yeah, I've never gotten a base hit, or any hit for that matter, when I was in the box thinking, all right, I got to keep my hands inside the ball, make sure I am keeping composed, my structure is good, and I'm keeping my barrel above the ball. It just doesn't work, That's all save for practice and pregame, postgame. When you're in the game, it should just be fluid, Don't think.
I think that's the one thing that Chris Afaro and Mark over at Route 2 and a lot of the guys like Jimmy Hand, he was at Northeastern. He's a former Northeastern guy, that they kind of talk about in terms of the approach of, we spend 3.5 months working on swings. When it comes down to the game, just compete, react, trust yourself that you're going to be in A, B, and C. And if it's not there, just worry about barreling up a ball, hitting it hard, and then you can work on things after. I think a lot of the top hand, bottom hand, and the thing we do to reinforce certain mechanics is great. But then when it comes time for games, Mark or Jimmy or those guys aren't down the third baseline. Someone swings and misses. Mark's not going, elbow or anything like that. He doesn't want to put any more stuff in that kid's brain in terms of the competitor aspect. They just trust, okay, this kid's going to feel it out. He's going to barrel something up. I don't need to say, hey, get inside the ball, things like that, because just like you said, Jeff, that's not what you're thinking as a hitter going up to the plate. As a coach, Mark or Chris, they're not really going to reinforce that, because then it just explodes and starts to snowball, and then you're completely out of it.
I think a huge separator too, which is like, I wish Sal and I will both agree with you, that we wish we had at your age, was those hack attacks, those three-wheeled pitching machines you guys got at Route 2 is such a game changer. Just like before the fields got shut down, Sal, me, and another kid on my team, we would go to the field every day and just ramp that thing up. And hitting velo is the best thing that you can do. I've always said that, like, rather than paying for a hitting coach, or just thinking about the ways in which you can make the most progress as a player, it's not even close, and it's with a pitching machine like that.
Yeah, I mean, like the biggest jump, I think, like obvious jump from high school to college, was just the pitching velo. I know Matt was getting into that a little bit, and I know that every single one of you guys on this call right now can hit a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. Like I know. Can you do it right now? No, because your eyes have been trained for however long you've been playing baseball to hit whatever velo you've been seeing. But that big jump, if you want to make it, especially as you guys start to see faster velo, is, all right, I just got to train my eyes. I remember I got surgery my freshman fall before I came in, and the biggest thing I was worried about was, I haven't seen this fast at velo yet, and I'm missing the whole fall. Like, how am I going to adjust? So I would literally stand with my brace. I'd stand in on every single pitcher's pen, and I'd just stand there, and I'd just watch the ball go by, every ball. And then I'd go to a pitching machine. I'd just stand there, and I'd just watch it go by. So whether you're hitting the ball or not right now, if you guys are trying to get in on these machines, crank them up a little bit. See how fast you can go, and train those eyes as you start getting older to see this fast pitching, because it goes a long way.
Your senior year at Lexington High School, I think, was the first year that Mark and Chris opened up Route 2, and you guys were training in there. And I remember we had the hack attack, and one of the cages that we had set up for you guys was the hack attack, or the pitcher machine, with 3 different home plates, 3 feet up. So, all right, you hit back, you step up, you hit 2 or 3, and it's a little bit quicker. Then all of a sudden you hit that third home plate, and it's gas, and then you had to go back to that first one, and now it's simulating off speed. But it's training your eye, not only the velocity, but then also the off speed stuff in terms of timing and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I know Jeff does that drill. We do that drill too. That drill will be done at every college campus. So
yeah. And I think we were at the time right now with our Route 2 when the whole COVID-19 thing happened, where we were getting into some live at-bats, things like that, guys being able to face live and stuff, in a little bit more true baseball in terms of velocity and recognition. And then obviously the whole COVID thing kind of happened. But what did you guys, in terms of the mental approach, find different from high school? Coming into a game where high school, an hour before the game, you hop off the bus, you do your dynamic stretch, you do an infield, outfield, you take some hacks with, if there was a cage there, you take some hacks, but maybe you just take some dry hacks with the weighted bat, something like that. What was your approach, say, routine mentally going into a game in high school compared to now college, where you have a little bit more leisure? What would be some advice to these kids that are in the high school ranks that you could pass along to them that you maybe took for granted in high school, opposed to maybe going through the motions times during your pregame, that you would recommend, hey, don't F off. You only have 45 minutes. Take all those 45 minutes seriously, whether it's mobility, stretching, throwing, whatever it needs to get you mentally or physically prepared, that you can pass along to them that you guys do now that you didn't do in high school.
Definitely the biggest piece I would say was just the difference between busy work and actually like doing things with a purpose. So often pregame baseball games, I would in high school, I would just do drills and like take BP just to hit BP, and I never really had a purpose and like something I was focusing on. And looking back, that could have been like such a separator for me, because now I always ask if it hasn't already been stated, like what the purpose is of a drill if I'm doing a drill, or like the purpose of aiming like our base hits during BP over the second baseman's head. Why it is I'm doing that, just so I can always make sure that I'm like reminding myself of like what I'm supposed to be doing and the ultimate end goal.
Okay.
I think is a big part.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's going to be different for everybody. You're going to be given a ton of different ideas of, what to do and how to prepare, but you guys have to just start testing them now and figure out what works for you. I know for me, like Matt was saying, like in high school, you hop off the bus, you wouldn't even take BP, you'd throw, you take IO and you play. And now we're at the field 4 hours before a game and I'm twiddling my thumbs. And I wish, honestly, I could just go and play, but there's a routine that, has to be done. And, mine is, I sort of found it is that, if we ever took BP in high school, I just try to crank home runs. And that just was terrible for me. And now you get 4 rounds of BP. First round, I'm a lefty. So first round, I'm trying to hit every single ball off the left field foul line, right down the left field line. Let the ball get as deep as possible. My next round, I'll go left center. In my third round, I'll go center field. And then my fourth round, I'll get loose a little bit and try to pop some out. But that's just what worked for me. It helps me stay behind the ball, lets the ball get deep. And that's just something that I've had to work on. And I fortunately found something that, I can stick to and that works, but it took me a little bit to figure it out. And I think if you guys start trying now, it'll be more than fine.
Yeah. And I think what you were just talking about too, both of you guys, is the approach where Mark, Chris, during the winters and during hitting and stuff, they always talk about approach, whether it's pitch recognition, plate coverage, certain things where we want to be hitting the ball, why we want to be hitting the ball there. Going into a high school season, even at the collegiate level, you obviously know some programs are blessed, some have more volunteers than other. Some coaching is very scarce. So at the high school level, you might have, say, 6 coaches to cover freshmen through varsity. So maybe a varsity pregame, you might only have 2 or 3 coaches there. One's hitting BP, one's working with the pitcher that's warming up. So you might have players throwing BP right now. So these kids don't necessarily sometimes get the reinforcement of their approach. Hey, we're working to get the hitter over, or we're working for bunting for a base hit, the different approaches, and they just kind of go through the motions like you were saying, hey, I'm just going to rear back and try to take this ball deep, So I think for these guys, in terms of the maturity aspect of finding your approach, what works for you, continuing that routine, and then bringing it into your high school season. If your coaches aren't throwing BP and just your teammate is, take it upon yourself to mentally continue that approach. Or if you go down to the batting cages, a lot of these kids right now, they're quarantined, right? They might be in a situation where their parents can allow them to go with their brother or maybe their best friend down to the park and hit, right? If you go down to the park, don't just start taking hacks, work your approach and kind of work opposite field, get them over different things, opposed to just trying to go, hey, I got 50 swings in today and I was just trying to swing out of my ass.
One thing I would do in high school that I still do every game now is visualizing. Now even our hitters coach, he'll demand that like we all do like 10 minutes of just visualization off to the side, like 20 minutes before the game. And just we have our bats, we have our batting gloves on, and we're just getting a feel down, and we're just visualizing like a pitcher coming in. Maybe it's just like the pitcher's warming off to the side. Maybe it's like the pitcher in the pen. You just like see him from a distance, and you're just getting the rhythm down and visualizing success. Because I think the mental side of swinging a baseball bat is as important, if not more important, than the actual swing.
Yeah. Timing wise, Justin Dunn, when he was on, he was talking about how when he was brought up with the Mariners, he's in the dugout and there's guys that are, asking him for help because he's always keyed in the game in terms of timing, pitchers, different sequences pitchers might have, things like that. So if you can kind of get on that early, like you were saying, where you take that approach of visualization, you might go down in groups, or you're sitting there on deck waiting to get into your round, and you see the guy down in the bullpen warming up. You can time him up, kind of get into a feel, and kind of get yourself mentally prepared. As now I'm in a competitive state. This guy's going into his windup. There's his handbrake. Let me set my load. Let me get timing down now, and then I hop in for my BP rounds. But always, like you said, kind of visualizing your swing in more of a competitive kind of game aspect, instead of just kind of going through the motions of maybe working your mechanics, things like that.
Absolutely.
Mentally, what was your biggest thing? Obviously jumping from high school ball to college ball, both of you guys had some good success in terms of numbers. What was it mentally when maybe you guys started out in the fall, if you struggled because of the competition and kind of that jump from BB&N or Lexington High School to fall ball, where you're at BB&N, Lexington High, you're seeing guys mid-80s, during the summer, so you might see some guys touching 90, to now all of a sudden you go into the fall where the majority of your pitching staff and arms are probably sitting 90. What mentally did you do to prepare for that? And then also, what did you guys do if you did have some hardships going in that fall, or even during the spring and practices or any inter squads? If you started to fail, what kind of mental approach did you guys set back on to say, hey, I do belong here still, even though I'm struggling, or vice versa, or I might seem outmatched right now, but I'm here for a reason, power through it, this is what I'm going to do?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing for me was just having confidence. And you guys all play for Route 2. You play for a good AAU team. You made the team, and you guys have to understand that you're good baseball players. And if you're ever in the box against a really good pitcher and you're thinking to yourself, wow, this guy's really good, you're going to strike out. You're not going to get a hit. I think my first ACC series, my freshman year, we were playing Florida State, I want to say. And they had a Team USA guy who's, this big lefty, number one, pitcher in the country. And I just remember there was so much buzz about him. I'm like, what's everyone talking about this for? Like, I'm going to step in the box and I'm going to, look at him and I'm going to say, we're both 18, 19, 20-year-olds. We're the same exact age. I'm better than you. I'm going to barrel up a ball right here. And that's all it takes to be a good hitter. I think more so than mechanics and everything, is just having confidence in the box. I did struggle a lot with my being mentally tough coming in as a freshman. So I tore my meniscus in my knee the last game of summer ball my senior year of high school. So I came in to a brand new college, brand new program, and I couldn't even play baseball. So I was just going to class and I was sitting on the bench just watching these kids. I was like, I'm never going to play here. These kids are way better than me. And I was pouting. I was feeling bad for myself. And I remember my coach kind of took notice. He's like, dude, what are you doing? Kind of took notice. He was like, listen, you got yourself here. You're going to get healthy, focus on that. And then we'll get you on the plane. So I remember I absolutely busted my butt in physical therapy to get healthy. I got, my left leg twice as strong as it's ever been. And I had a great freshman campaign. And then I remember playing Duke. I'm in the outfield. Some kid hits a nuke over my head. I leaped up, I caught the ball at the wall, I smashed into it, and I tore my meniscus again, same knee. And I was absolutely heartbroken. I had to miss the whole summer. I missed the ACC championship. And I just remember sitting on the bench, I had never been in a worse state mentally. I was in a dark, dark place. And I just had to find the strength to overcome that. And it just took me, a couple weeks to overcome it. Getting back to physical therapy, and just making sure that I was stronger than I've ever been, so that doesn't happen again. And so that was probably the hardest part for me, was dealing with those two surgeries. But in the end, it's made me so much more mentally strong. I think even a little bit showed this past year. I remember I was off to a great start, and then we get to Clemson, the last series we played, and I start off the first 2 games I'm like 0 for 10, and I'm kicking myself in the head. And easily right there, I think if that's my freshman year, that last game I'm going 0 for 5. But it was just like my swing feels off. How do I get on base? I think I drew 2 or 3 walks that last game. Still didn't get a hit, but I was just 0 for 1 instead of 0 for 5. And I think the whole mental approach to that helped and developed from those surgeries.
Now, how did you? So when you, after your freshman year, that game against Duke, I mean, your summer, you were scheduled to go to the Cape, or you had the USA invite too, I think.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm still struggling with it a little bit because I think a dream of mine as a kid was playing in the Cape Cod Baseball League.
Yeah.
So I got
Even
that out of me for So I mean, freshman year early, they said I got a contract in Harwich, and then I remember actually I got out of surgery, and Team USA ended up calling, inviting me to try out, and I was heartbroken. I was like, I'm going to come back next year. I'm going to play just as well. I'm going to get that same invite. And right now, obviously, the Cape League just get canceled, and the Team USA is. So I'm still dealing with that mental side. Like, hey, I'm probably never going to get to play in the Cape League or Team USA, but how can I work around that right now, and how can I continue to get better? And it's a much easier process for me after I've missed so much baseball that, I'm healthy right now, and it's just kind of the gratitude side of it. Like, hey, I can play baseball, so.
Did you? I know your parents and your family. You guys are all really close. Obviously, they probably helped out. When you were down in the dumps and kind of feeling bad for yourself. I'm sure they did everything they could to kind of pick you up. But besides them and kind of your support group with your family and friends, was there anything that you resorted to in terms of, reading or anything? Podcasts or mental approach, mental health stuff, any breathing, meditation, things like that to kind of get you back on the path? Or was it just, you had your family, your friends backing you, and so many people that had your back, knowing that you can come back from this, you've been there, not to feel sorry for yourself, but hey, put the work in, don't worry about it. When you're healthy, you're going to come back stronger. Obviously that was there. But was there any other avenue that you might have used to kind of mentally and stability kind of wise get you back into the swing of things?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was I kind of fell in love with the weight room, and I just fell in love with keeping my body healthy and putting good things in my body. I completely changed my diet. I remember the whole summer I was eating healthy. I was working out twice a day. I would do PT in the morning. If they said 10 reps, I'd do 20 reps. I just wanted to overload and just make sure that I was getting my body, to not just 100% where I got after the first surgery, but 150% because that's, where I want to be at. And that just completely translated. And I think I'm currently, feel way better body-wise, in the best shape than I've been, when I was playing 3 sports in high school. And then the other thing is that what was biggest for me is that, so I have yet to play a fall ball in college because I've been hurt for both of them. And everyone's always like, oh, how are you going to be able to play in the spring? You're missing the whole fall. And I would just answer like, I was playing football and hockey in high school. I didn't pick up a bat until, February usually. So like I'm doing nothing different. I just haven't played fall ball my whole entire life. So that was another big positives going back to playing multiple sports in high school is that, and that's kind of what helped me out personally. It was like, hey, you're fine. You weren't playing fall ball in high school, but you're going to do what you always do. You're going to come back in February and you're going to pick up a bat and you're going to rock it. So that really helped.
So when you got hurt, what was your mindset in terms of when it actually happened? Did you come out like that next day? I know a lot of these kids, when you got the injury, did you know right away that something was wrong and you said, hey, you know what? I'm the competitor. I'm not going to tell Bino about it, and I'm going to try to play through it. A lot of these kids, whether they're catchers, infielders, pitchers, they're going to come that situation where maybe they come across an injury. Did you try pushing it, or were you like, hey, I know something's wrong. I got to get this looked at?
Yeah, so the big thing I learned is there's a difference between playing hurt and playing injured, right? So playing hurt is fine. You guys may get a bumper bruise here and there. I don't know, you get knocked up on a play, get hit by a pitch somewhere that's hurting, and you're hurt. You can play through that. You can tough it out. And then there's being injured, which is something completely different. And not so much my first one, but my second one. I got up from that wall and I knew I was injured, and I think I was leading off that inning. I went up to the plate, and I couldn't even stride, and it was just something felt off. So I immediately told coach. I said, hey, something's wrong. Rather than pushing it right now through the rest of this game, versus resting it. And, maybe that rest is going to save me for playing the rest of the season. Unfortunately, it wasn't, but you guys have to be smart with your bodies because, I'm in college right now, and I've already had 2 surgeries because I was young and I was immature and I was throwing my body around. And, a lot of times I was trying to play injured versus, coming out when need be. So you guys have to diagnose whether if you're hurt or injured, and whether it's smart to stay in or not, because there's times to wear the cape and then there's times not to.
I think that's great too, because as these guys head into the summer, hopefully we'll have a summer season, but they're going to be at tournaments where they might have an injury or they might be banged up, and it's whether or not, okay, am I going to try to fight through this and suck this game because I'm injured and suck next game or the next day because I'm injured, or am I just going to say, hey, I need a shelfer right now. It's probably the best thing because I can come back tomorrow and be a little bit stronger and showcase myself better. There's, like you said, there's a time to wear the cape and the time not to. You want to be that competitor, but you also need to worry about, obviously, playing at the best of your ability. You talked about your diet. Is that something that you, in high school, wish you kind of, I know Mama Frelick can chef it up. So, but is that something that you wish maybe in high school you took a little bit more regard to, eating a little bit healthier? How was your high school diet compared to what it is now? And looking at some of these guys in high school, if they can kind of get ahead of the game, eat a little bit more healthy, be more beneficial from their body, maybe it'll help them in terms of developing as a better athlete a little bit quicker in terms of their athletic ability, being able to be more pliable, recover quicker, things like that.
Yeah, I think it started for me realizing that I need to get on some sort of diet plan for myself about my junior year of high school. I think maybe my junior summer, even for my senior year, actually, when I was like, there's these kids, smacking the ball out of the park, and that's something I think that I can do if I put on some pounds and put on some muscle. So I, up until my junior year would eat 3 meals a day and maybe 2.5. I'd eat dinner at night with my mom. Sometimes I'd skip breakfast. I was eating junk food in between classes and stuff, and then something kind of clicked my junior summer. I think it was honestly, when I got rejected from area code that one year. I was like, I'm coming into college, 180. I think it was like 165 the end of my junior year, and it just kind of triggered. I woke up every morning. Sometimes I worked out before school. I'd eat a good breakfast. I made sure to pack sandwiches for, in between. So I'd kind of get 2 lunches in school, and then I'd eat a dinner at night. I'd have, either a milkshake or a protein shake before I went to bed. And by my senior year, I was 180. Put on some good muscle, and then I think that just kind of attributed to me putting the ball out a little further, and it was a direct correlation. So I think if you guys can fall in love with that process of loving your body, it's going to go far away.
Jeff, if you want to talk about that too in terms of some mental stuff, and then obviously your diet, things like that. Neither of you guys are 6'3", 220 pounds, so obviously being a little bit shorter, you guys. I know both of you guys now. You guys are in incredible shape, stuff like that. So kind of what you guys worked on in terms of, hey, this is what I'm gifted with. I'm not going to grow in terms of my height, but let me put on some mass, things like that. There's some guys in here that are in high school that are either battering maybe some height or they're skinny, and you feel like guys, their peers around them maybe are at a little bit faster pace, but eventually if you just kind of stick with it, you're gonna mature. Justin Dunn, when he was on, he said the best thing in terms of velocity, it's obviously going to go for hitting and power, is puberty. So.
Yeah. And to add on that, every time you're in the kitchen or you're in the cafeteria, or like for me, if you're me and Sal, you're in the dining hall, you have a choice. You have a choice between what you want to eat. They have salad bars, they have fruit bars, they have vegetable bar, they have everything you could ever need. And it's just that choice to just like lock into a plan. We're fortunate enough to have nutritionists that provide direction to us and how we want to, feed ourselves and what to feed ourselves, more importantly. And it's so important because you get on the road, especially in the college level, and you get meal money, which is also another thing we're fortunate to have. But for a lot of times the hotels we're staying at, we don't have cars. So we have to get whatever's in walking distance, or we can get on like Grubhub or Uber Eats. But if there's only a gas station there, you're only eating gas station food, and that's kind of the stuff that you have to make the wise, mature decision on, like, what you're actually going to put in your body. For a lot of guys, some guys can eat whatever they want and they just like burn it off like that. They just have that fast metabolism. But there are a lot of guys on my team that, if they eat whatever they want at like the gas stations or any of the fast food places, and it immediately shows. And you lose a lot of weight when you're on the road, because just by nature of playing a 60-game schedule, you're not able to keep the same diet you once had in the fall and winter. So it's just being smart with that. In high school, I'm sure you guys have choices. You guys can go to like Burger King, or you can go to, like Panera, or something that is more beneficial nutritionally. In terms of getting back to the mental side of it, I was fortunate enough, and still am fortunate enough, to not have had like a major injury to like set me back, knock on wood. But there is definitely a mental side to it when you're in like slumps, that is so important to not let the game speed up on you, because one at bat can turn into 30 real quick if you don't just like slam on the brakes a little bit and take a step back. That happened for me earlier in the season this year. I'd had a pretty frustrating winter, and winter ball is when all the pitchers get ramped back up, and that's when we start facing live pitchers. For fall ball, it's more just like for us, it's like the incoming freshmen that will throw to us a lot. But winter is when you get to like see the dudes who are going to be our Friday, Saturday, Sunday guys. But I was in a slump in the winter, and I was freaking out, not out loud, but like just like in my head, I was like, oh God, like what am I gonna do? Like I'm trying to make these little changes in my swing to see if I can try to bounce back and snap out of it. But it ended up carrying its way into the fall, into the spring, and then I kind of hit the panic button a little bit, and that was like the first time in my baseball career where I thought, like, are the trains about to go off the track right now? But it was probably like five games in. I was making contacts, but it wasn't like the barrels, like Sal said. Like I wasn't hitting consistent barrels. And like that, this time last year, I was in a very different place. I had come off a very successful summer. I was happy with what I did in the fall, so it just wasn't adding up. And it was important for me to identify that, recognize that it's there. You don't have to run away from it. You don't have to, pretend like it doesn't exist, because that's another way that it can definitely speed up on you. And then before you know it, you played 3/4 of your season. So I was able to sit down with my coach, and he kind of just reeled me back in, brought me back down to earth, and be like, you just got to like resort back to what worked. And for me, I knew I would tell myself 3 things when I stepped into the box: make sure my foot was down, make sure I had composure when I was taking my step, and then making sure my hands were inside the ball. And I had taken enough hacks to the point where I knew what that felt like. And so I was just going off feeling rather than just like listing off those 3 things. So just going off feeling. I knew when I wasn't taking a swing that I felt good with.
I think that's good that you just talked about to your coach. A lot of these guys are going to be in situations where they struggle, and depending on the age and in high school as well, they're going to not feel threatened, but some guys are afraid to approach coach sometimes because they're struggling or they have an issue. Instead of just being like, coach, I don't know what the F's going on. I don't feel right. Like, is there anything in my swing? Just kind of getting that mental reassurance that, like, hey, like you said, you sat down with coach and he talked about, resort to what works, kind of giving you that positive of, hey, at one point there was something working, like it was there. Don't completely blow it out of too much proportion because you had the skill, it was there. You're just in a speed bump right now,
Right. And that being able to go to your coach or have your coach come to you when you know something's wrong is so important. And there's some coaches out there that completely like shut that off for some reason, shut that down, and like they make you figure it out yourself or you're getting benched. It's that like they brought you in, so it can be a back and forth conversation to try to have you have you work through it.
Yeah, and
But
I think that's the big thing is the kids having confidence to go and kind of ask those questions.
And then I was able to work through it, and then I felt like how I felt in the summer and the fall before, and then our season got canceled.
Yeah. I think too, some of the kids that are a little bit more mature, more physical, or a little bit more primed in a better situation, maybe in terms of a ball player, they might feel that pressure. Yeah, you might have a coach that you can approach and talk to and stuff like that, but you might feel that pressure of not doing it because you're the big man on the totem pole. Like you're trying to be, you're say the best player on your 15 or 16U team. For you to go to your coach being like, hey, I'm having an issue, whether it's with your swing or mentally, some kids might think it looks like I'm a weaker link and they might not want to do that. Even though a coach is very open and fine about that, just in terms of them as a competitor and their mental aspect, they don't want to show like they're a weak link and go to a coach with a problem.
That was my biggest issue as a player, was the thought of my coach losing just like losing that trust in me to be able to do what I needed to do to add to the team.
Yeah.
And just the thought of not being able to contribute and have my teammates be able to count on me was like definitely what I started to think, and then that just leads to more panic, and then it just doesn't do you any good. So it's better to just nip that stuff in the butt when it happens.
Sal, anything in terms of like struggling approach too? Did you ever?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the biggest thing for me is always staying consistent mentally, just because you guys are going to have games where, for me, I struggle more in the game after I go 5 for 5 than in the game after I go 0 for 5. If I go 0 for 5 in a game, I think obviously playing football, that helps. Just being a quarterback, if I ever threw a pick, I was always taught, short memory, come back out and play the next drive. So like going over 5 in a game, the next game I come out, I completely forgotten about that. Versus a game where I absolutely smoked the ball, say I'm 5 for 5, and then the next game all of a sudden everything in my swing completely breaks down, just because I got too high-headed. The same thing is after I hit a home run, sometimes I think the most important at-bats I have are the ones after I hit a home run. I know if any of you guys play hockey, the most important shift's the one after a goal. It's kind of the same idea. And for me, I think when I have to have my mental approach, the strongest is after success. So, yeah.
I like that. Like you said, a lot of guys can get too high on themselves, and then even mentally, you come off a 5 for 5 game, and then all of a sudden that first at bat the next day, say you strike out. It's that some guys can lead into that. Oh shit! What just happened? I was smoking the ball yesterday. Now I just took 2 of the worst swings in my life, and I look like I've never played baseball again. And all of a sudden it snowballs, kind of like, where did yesterday go? And they might not bounce back. So we can probably close up in a couple minutes, but if you want to give the boys any more advice in terms of the recruiting process, maybe what they should look for this winter or this summer, kind of the approach that they should have in terms of going into some games, some tournaments. They're going to be a lot of college eyes on some of these kids in our older teams throughout the first couple and tournaments throughout the summer. So anything that you can give them in terms of staying competitive, staying loose, staying positive if they do slump, heading into this kind of recruiting process. And then if you want, some of these guys, we'll take 3 or 4 questions. Some of these guys can ask a question for you guys and you can answer it.
I think the biggest thing is that I think I remember last year you guys came out to BC. I was on the bench helping out, and I remember halfway through the game, I kind of asked Chris if I could pull you guys aside because I saw too many kids not running out ground balls and not running out to their positions and just the little things. Because the easiest way to get crossed off a list, first and foremost, is how your attitude appears on the field. I know I was fortunate to have great coaches growing up. I know Matt and these coaches preach it to you guys too, is that, first and foremost, I'm going to be the first one on the field in between innings. I'm sprinting to my position. I don't care if I hit a dribbler back to the pitcher. I'm running full speed down the first baseline. And it's just little things like that that will even get you noticed, not just get you crossed off the list. If you, hit a missile to the one hopper to the first baseman and then you sprint that out, like that's like, oh, look at that kid. He's playing every play hard. And I think, that's important for you guys right now and wanting to get noticed.
Yeah,
I think too for the
body language.
Yeah, body language is huge. I think for the big tournaments that a lot of these AAU teams are enlisted in nowadays, just taking it pitch by pitch, just slowing the game down, because it's so easy to get to have a moment become like too big for you for no reason, because all you guys are here for a reason. All you guys are on this team for a reason. You guys know how to ball, and you got to keep that in mind whenever you're playing an opponent, and just taking it pitch by pitch, and just know that the pitcher has to strike you out. The pitch, or if you're a pitcher, you have to. The guy still has to make contact with it, So just know that it goes both ways, and that the guy opposing you is in the same position you are. So you guys are an equal playing field.
Yeah, I like that. I think Sal touched a little bit about that early on too, about how, hey, I'm just an 18-year-old or I'm a 17-year-old, and so is that kid. You guys put on your jock straps and your stirrups the same way type thing. And I think both of you guys had played for some solid summer programs and stuff like that. This is only Route 2's third year, but last year 17U team, they won the New England Regional for perfect game 25. They won the NEB tournament, stuff like that. And I think last year, even from our 14U and on, I think we had some solid games with NEB and Nakona. Some of those guys that have been on the block longer than us. And I think it showed a lot of these kids like, hey, we put in the work just as much. And I think some guys, like you said, when you go to these big tournaments, some guys get too psyched out that, oh, they're playing NEB or they're playing Evo Shield, or, our older team was going down to Florida. And it's one of those things, shit, if we didn't think our older team could compete with guys down in Georgia, they were going to Georgia. If they can't compete with the teams down in Georgia, we wouldn't be sending them down. Have that confidence as, hey, our coaches in our program sending us down to this tournament, one of the top tournaments in Georgia. We're sending down here because they have confidence and we can compete with these guys. They put on their shoes the same way we do. They step into the batter's box the same way. It's 60 feet, 6 inches, 90 feet, base paths type mentality. So, I like that in terms of, the confidence of everyone is on that same in terms of playing field, but the opportunity to kind of showcase themselves and compete. Everyone is in that same realm. One guy isn't higher. You still got to play the 7 innings in these tournaments, things like that. So,
absolutely spot on.
Yep.
Fellas, if any of you guys want to ask a few questions, we'll do like 4 or 5 questions. Just talk and it'll click over to you, and you can direct it either to Jeff or Sal, and they can give you some knowledge on what you guys have to ask. So, anyone who wants to jump in quick first, just shout it out.
I got one. What was the?
I went for a walk the other day. I yelled for you. Window was shut. I left my phone. I would have given you a call. I was sad.
When did you go?
Sunday. No, Saturday. When was it nice? Saturday.
Oh, Saturday. I was probably thrown. What was like the biggest thing that you guys did, whether it was on the field or off the field, that like got you to play at the next level or prepared you to play at the next level?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of touched on it earlier. It's just like the biggest thing that I carry with me is you can't teach hustle. And that's something I think's gotten lost especially now with a lot of big leaguers, you see like will ground out and they'll just like won't even run down the first baseline. I think teaching, like having kids in the youth see that and them thinking they can do it is like those guys are big leaguers. Like they've ran out balls their whole life. So I don't agree with them, but you know, maybe you can do it at that level. But as high schoolers, like little things will get you noticed, like sprinting out to your position, running out ground balls as hard as you can. The biggest thing for me was like if you're 0 for 5, be up in the dugout because coaches will peek in dugouts and look at your attitude. And it's little things like that that I think are way more important than hitting home runs and stuff like that.
Totally agree with what Sal said on that. And he had mentioned it earlier, but confidence. You know, you guys have worked so hard, whether it be in the summer, in the fall, in the winter, just going into Maddie's place to get hacks in or just throw pens. You guys know what works. You guys have the confidence. Keeping that with you and continuing that into games and not abandoning it when stuff's not going your way is huge, because it's a game of failure and you got to learn that it's a marathon. It really is a marathon, not a sprint. So just sticking with what you know what works is probably the biggest piece of advice. I too often I just hit the panic button and try to change something that did need changing, you know.
Anyone else? Yeah. Anyone else got questions?
I got one.
What's up, Xander?
What was like the biggest thing you guys did in terms of like building relationships with college coaches? Because obviously there's like the first interest when they see you, and then as you kind of progress, and then sort of when you got closer to an offer or something like that, how did that relationship, and was it just calling them all the time, or how did that kind of work with you guys?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and Xander, you obviously are doing a good job of this, is I've seen you at the BC camps, is, going out to the camps. Like you obviously have been in touch with Trez, who's our pitching coach, guys who don't know. And he's even asked me about you. And I think because you've gone to these camps and put yourself out in front of them is the first and foremost biggest thing you can do, because that's something you can't do when they come to see you, because you may not know when they're there, if they're coming to watch you play summer ball. But when you go to these camps, especially with all these new rules about them being in contact with you. But while you're at a camp, that's how you can get personal with the coach. You can talk to them, have a sit-down conversation with them. And I know that's how I personally, just from being at BC prior to my commitment and just getting out there as much as I can, seeing the school and having, actual conversations with them, that's what built the relationship the most with me.
I agree with Sal here. The camps are definitely without a doubt, the best way. And not only talking to the coaches, but the players are a direct pipeline to the coach. Like the players see the coaches every single day, and say there was something that the kid picked. Say there's something like one of my teammates picked up on that the coach didn't miss. The coach missed because he's looking at a million other things. And I'll tell you right now, there are like 2 or 3 comments that one of my teammates made to our coach that he just straight up missed, and then that ended up turning into our coach trying to track down this kid again. So just know that, like, while there are coaches there, the people working there too are basically act as eyes for the coach.
Yeah.
So just talking to them or showing out in front of them could make the difference.
I think too, like even with say Xander's situation, Sal had touched on. Xander will text me or something like that, and I think over the last couple of weeks he hasn't not necessarily been too pushy, but I told him to stay, proactive with a lot of these coaches. Coaches that you're in contact with and that they've contacted you. You can drop them emails, you can drop them some certain things. There's obviously a fine line of being annoying and then obviously staying in communication. If you can stay in communication and not be annoying, you're showing that coach, like, hey, Coach Glavin or Gambino, like, I really do want to come to Northeastern or BC. I'm checking in with you. I'm not, like I said, not being annoying, but checking in, maybe monthly, letting them know, like, hey, if it was a high school game, hey, coach, maybe they can't respond at the time, but if we were playing right now, hey, coach, I just played Wellesley. I went 6 innings, had 2K, I did this and that. Or, hey, I just got, my transcript. Here's my transcript. Here's my latest bullpen in terms of velocity, and this is how I'm progressing. Even though they might not be able to answer you or answer you right away, I feel like college coaches and some of the guys that I know in college that are coaching, they do those recruits that they do have their eyes on. They like to get the emails and the texts, because it shows, hey, this person's invested in our program, that they do want to come here. They're putting in the effort to send me the emails and send me videos and send me transcripts and stuff like that. So
first and foremost, the coaches want to know that these kids want to be here. So the more you can make that known, the better.
Anyone else? Any other questions? What do you guys
Nate
do?
Hartley, I know you got a question. Nate's mom teaches me at BC.
Where's Nate?
Hey.
Hi, Professor Hartley.
Hi, Sal. I've been lurking in the background. I'm like, I have to wave. Good to see you. Take care, okay?
Thank you. I passed your class, I think.
You think? Yeah, did they have grades closed yet?
I don't know yet.
Now you better. You said hi. What have you guys been? What have you guys been doing during the quarantine? Have you guys been? I know the field aspect in Lexington kind of got shut down like the first couple weeks of the quarantine. But have you resorted to more baseball style training, or are you guys lifting weights? You got weights at home, or kind of controlling what you can control? Are you guys doing more weightlifting? You doing both, or how are you guys going about the lockdown?
Our team is doing more. We have these like Zoom meetings, just like we're doing here, where we got like 4 or 5 a week, where it's just like 10-minute sessions of just like ab burnouts. And then we have one that's like plyometrics and more like Pilates-esque stuff like that.
So mostly physical?
Yeah, all pretty much physical.
No, I know I've seen some things on Instagram, some programs they've still kind of kept in the baseball mindset, and they've done like situations on PowerPoints, things like that, just to kind of keep players' minds kind of moving into the summer, depending on what league, if there is a league that they're playing in.
Right. We have like every now and then we have like a little outfielders group chat on our team, and our outfielders coach will just like occasionally throw in a point or two, or just like a video, and be like, watch out for this, watch for this guy's first step, and watch for the direction he took. But nothing too major. Just trying to stay loose and pliable. I'd say it's the biggest issue, but the biggest thing to do.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that you should be training right now, like whatever season may happen is going to start tomorrow. A big thing in our program is that in the fall we lift to gain strength, and in the spring we lift to maintain strength. And I think that right now is a super hard period to maintain strength, whether you don't have equipment to lift or for whatever reason you just can't get your lifts in. We have plenty of kids on our team who have literally no equipment in their house. We're fortunate enough to have strength coaches who can give us, workouts that are body weight, and you guys can find them online. I mean, they're super easy. So if you guys are struggling to get the motivation to go work out or go do something, you guys have to think that you're playing tomorrow, and you can't, especially for you pitchers. And I know I'm on a throwing program too. Now is the time to make sure that you take care of your arm. It's the same exact thing. I'm not sure what Matt has you on, but he knows exactly what to do more than I do. But for us position players at BC right now, we're in a light throwing program, so that if the summer were to start, we're ready for that. And when we come back, we're not blowing out our arms, but at the same time, we're not overdoing it to the point where like we're icing our arms after we throw right now. So just be smart with it, but always just prepare as if you're playing tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that's huge. Obviously with the pitchers, but I think in any position, is your arm care, stuff like that. And like you were saying, there's going to be guys that aren't fortunate enough to have weights and stuff, but if they can do some body weight stuff and then really work on stretching and your mobility, then the summer comes. If you're forced to go 100%, at least you have the pliability, the elasticity, you can do bands, things like that. You might lose a little bit of weight or a little bit of strength because you're not using your trap bar, you're not squatting 300 pounds, whatever it is, but the elasticity of your muscles and your ligaments are there and stuff to kind of prevent the injury, especially in these guys' situation because, obviously with no high school ball, they're going to hop into a summer where if we have summer ball, they're in tournaments, some of these older guys, and it's showcase tournaments. It's you got to be at your best. You need to be able to go 100% right from that first tournament because all eyes are on. And especially this summer where there wasn't any high school ball and there's really no gauging on certain guys and kind of avenues of who to watch. I feel like this summer is going to be very heavily recruited for some of these high school kids because it's the only baseball that's going to be around is that kind of summer ball. So
Matt,
that's huge.
Mr. Walsh, I have a question for both these young studs. Guys, what are you doing to work on velo in terms of bat? You're not seeing any live pitching. So let's say the summer starts up. Unfortunately, the Cape's been canceled. But, all of a sudden you haven't hit since, the middle of March or earlier. And now you're going to step in the box and you're going to see 92, 95, whatever. What are you doing to get prepared for that?
Yeah, so Jeff and I have, when we first got back and conditions were, not as bad as they are now, we were at the field every day hitting baseballs. Now we've had to back off a little bit because of, we can't use
Naomi Martin
closed. Yeah, Naomi.
You had the machine. You brought.
So we had a hack attack machine, and we brought it, and we were cranking it up to. We were like 90 from like 12 feet away, just trying to hit these balls. But it's been hard now. I know that there's a cage over by C4 that you can get in that. It's pretty low key, but if you're going to allow your kid to go out of the house, there's plenty of ways for them to go hit baseballs, whether it's just tee work. And I've also just been working on my hand-eye. Down in my basement, I have these little like golf balls that I just have shoot out of this little, I bought it for like $10 online. And I've just been hitting it with like a little stick just to work on my hand-eye coordination, but just little things like that to help.
There's so many videos too. Just like I'm sure you guys have all seen the video of I forget who was hitting, but he was shooting a Nerf gun at him. Like that's the kind of stuff that is like you don't think about it, but it's absolutely perfect for this time. And it's working on hand-eye, working on timing, working on just like making sure you're connecting with the barrel head.
I saw pro guys, they're minor league guys, they're living with each other out in Arizona. There's like 4 of them in an apartment or a condo or townhouse. And they bought the blitz balls because those things things take off, they move, and they're just standing there humming them at each other. And the guys are like, this is, obviously some of them are crazy tales, but he's like, this is what it's like when you're facing probably a guy like Chapman or a guy like Cole, you know.
90-mile-an-hour cutters.
Yeah. But are you guys at all worried about that? Do you think it'll be somewhat like riding a bike, maybe that after that first at bat or something that you see that guy 90, 91, depending on, even if you play for the Blue Sox or say the Futures League, whatever it is, doesn't happen and you're back in the inner city league, there's going to be guys that are at Northeastern, Holy Cross, BC, those schools, even NESCAC schools that are going to be playing that pump 90, that pump high, that are good pitchers. You think after that first at bat or after seeing that first fastball, it'll come back to you, or you think it'll take a week or take a couple at bats?
Yeah, definitely after seeing at least like one or two, lining up the timing part is so important. Just making sure when your foot needs to be down. I think it becomes easier to see less reps or just have less time to be prepared, because it's really hitting is 90% timing.
Yeah,
gotta have your foot down on time.
Anyone can it's 100-mile-an-hour fastballs, like you can just hit it if you're timed up. If it's straight as an arrow, like all you have to do is time it up and hit it. So I think after the first couple of bats, but if we ever get back anytime soon, I'll probably just be as short as I can to the ball for my first couple at bats, not get lengthy, and then should be okay. But just because I think Jeff and I have been fortunate enough to see velo the past couple of years, I wouldn't say like, if it was a kid from high school who's now going to college and stepping in, it'd be way different for him. But
Yeah.
I think for everybody who's seen the velo already, there should be all right.
That's being the pitching guy. That's the one thing that I've told all of our arms is they're going to be at an advantage. Those first 2 tournaments in the summer, those are some of the more highly scouted and recruited. There's more eyes on those first couple tournaments. Some of these pitchers are going to be at an advantage over, say, a batter. So if you stay on your grind right now and you kind of keep up with everything, now going into those first tournaments where a batter might not see 85 or 86 or something like that, now you might gas him up because his timing's a little off.
Mm-hmm.
That might give you some kind of eyebrow raises, like, whoa, this kid's dominating. And yeah, there's some circumstances behind it, but if they keep on their grind and they come out those first weeks, they're at an advantage and kind of shove it to the hitters. No offense to those hitters, but it's ultimately they're at a disadvantage because if they're hitting T, yeah, they're getting their work in, but they're not seeing pitch recognition, pitch design, things like that now trying to compete. It's going to take those hitters, some of those high school kids, a tournament or two to kind of get back into the swing of things, I'm sure. So, all right, fellas, I think we're good to go, but I appreciate you guys hopping on here. I know a lot of these guys, especially our Route 2 guys, some of our older guys and even some of our younger guys are from Lexington and from the surrounding area. So they know of you. They've seen you at the facility. A lot of them had met you, during the edge workouts where you guys kind of help run it. Some of these guys have been over to Northeastern, BC, seen you guys play, stuff like that. So I appreciate it where you're close enough with some of these guys' age to kind of give them an in-depth look of the recruiting process, kind of to transition from high school to college ball and kind of what you experienced over the last, say, 5 or 6 years as you began your process and kind of what you're at now. So I know a lot of them will see you guys around too, whether it's at the facility during the winter or if you guys are going to be here during the summer, Blue Sox or whatever you guys are doing, futures games. I'm sure some of them will be able to get out to some of those games. So thanks, fellas.
Yeah, and just guys, if you have any questions at all after this, Matt has our contact info. You can absolutely give it to them. Just because I know times might be a little tough right now, but absolutely shoot some questions at us if you have any that you didn't get answered tonight.
Yeah, and I know some guys have reached out to me after some of these Zoom casts that I've done, with some questions and stuff like that. So, feel free to, like you just said, they can reach out to you guys at any time. They can reach out to me. I can pass it along. But I know some of these guys will have some questions, maybe even in the future throughout the summer. So all of them can feel comfortable reaching out to you guys. You've always been in a situation like they're in now and kind of being role models in terms of where they want to be. A lot of these guys have the potential to play at some of these schools around here. Your Northeastern, your BC, they're good academic schools. They're good academic students like you guys were. So like I said, it's nice to have these guys connect with you. Kind of they're trying to chase their dreams and their dreams are kind of the same path you guys have. So it's nice to.
We were in your shoes not too long ago, so definitely don't be a stranger. We're here for you guys.
And it's nice to get you guys on here too, because a lot of these guys, even some of the younger guys, they look up to, say, a BC baseball player, a Northeastern baseball player. You guys you're at the ultimate level, Division I level, great academic institute, playing in the Cape, going into the MLB draft, things like that, where it shows them that you are real too. You've had your issues, you've had your mental struggles, you've had your physical struggles. You guys haven't been perfect, the whole way through. So it's nice to show them that you guys you're real and you're human and you have had maybe some flaws. It hasn't been smooth sailing the whole way. So
absolutely. Hey, thanks for having us on.
Thanks, man.
Awesome. I'll see you guys.
Thanks,
Thank you, Sal. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys. Stay safe.
You too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
See you guys. See you, Nate. Nose looks good.